Yo guys, what is up? Here we are with another reading video, and today we are reading chapters 23 and 24. I know this is late. I had a lot going on, but it is now summer, so I can almost guarantee you there will be videos every Saturday now. We are actually getting really close to 100 subscribers. I'm so excited. I never thought that I would reach this point. Remember when I thought getting to 30 subscribers was amazing. I'm all the way almost at 80. I still sound like I'm way too low subscribers, but that's okay. So please leave comments. Tell me what you want me to do as my 100 subscriber special, or if you even want a 100 subscriber special. Anyway. Okay, that's all I gotta say. Scoot up my chair. Okay. Milkweed by Jerry Spinelli. Chapter 23. Janina was screaming as I raced down the stairs to the courtyard and the street. She wanted to kick Himmler, and it took both her father and Uncle Shepsel to hold her back. I careened from person to person. Where is Himmler? Where is Himmler? I followed pointing fingers down one street and another till I saw the cars coming, a parade of them. Huge cars, magnificent cars with the tops down. The cars had uniforms of their own. They were gray and silver and unsmiling and proud, like the men sitting in them. Peddler carts veered out of the way. I was surprised that the people were not pouring out of the buildings, mobbing the sidewalks. A few people stood at the curb, hats in hand, looking down. Others kept walking along, eyes straight ahead. Such was a man whose sleeve I tugged. Which one is Himmler? The man kept moving as if I wasn't there. Only the flops looked at the parade. They stood at attention with one arm out thrust in the jackboot salute, as if reaching for something no one else could see. A corner of a newspaper over a nearby corpse waved in the breeze. I began to panic. I grabbed at people. Which one is Himmler? No one answered. I trotted along with the cars. I stared at the magnificent men. They stared straight ahead. On their jackboot hats, the great silver eagles spread their wings and seemed to glare at the people daring them to do something wrong. Their wings were like angels' wings, except that eagles' wings were fully unfurled, flying. I began calling to the men in the cars. Are you Herr Himmler? Some of the men looked down at me. No one answered. I ran from car to car. Are you Herr Himmler? I saw a man, the most magnificent jackboot I'd ever seen, standing in the black seat in the first car. It must be him. His ramrod attention was better than my own in the courtyard. His ramrod attention was better. I just repeated myself. And he was only sitting. Blonde hair curled from beneath his eagle-winged hat. His head looked as if it had been chiseled from stone. His jawbone was all the weapon he would ever need. Herr Himmler, I shouted. Herr Himmler! He did not move. But someone else did. The jackboot on the passenger side of the front seat turned his head slightly, enough so that one of his eyes stared at me for a moment. The eye seemed too large, as if it was magnified behind the thick, round lenses of his eyeglass. The only little thing magnificent about this man was his uniform. I saw half of a little black mustache. It seemed to be dripping out of his nostril. A scrawny neck, a head that seemed more dumpling than stone. How could this be Himmler? The number 2 jackboot. He couldn't be. He looked like Uncle Shepsel. I knew how to prove it one way or another. His boots. Surely on the feet of Himmler, master of all the Jews, would be the most magnificent boots of all. Maybe they went up all the way to his legs. Maybe they had silver eagles. Herr Sir! Let me see your boots, Herr Sir! And suddenly I was on the ground. I had run smack into someone. As I got on my feet, a club was swinging back and forth between my eyes. I heard a loud smacking kiss. There was an overpowering smell of mint. Beyond the swinging club, the parade rolled through an open gate and the wall was gone. I knew who was on the other side of the club. I looked up. It was Buffo. Buffo was the worst flop of all. He was the only one I was really afraid of. We all were. No one knew how to account for an existence like Buffo's. It did not seem that he could possibly be a Jew, but then he wasn't a jackboot either. We boys decided to believe he was a Warsaw sausage maker. He looked like a pile of fat sausages, who hated Jews so much that he pretended to be one so that he could live in the ghetto. Then he could become a flop and torment the Jews to his heart's content. Like all flops, Buffo was not allowed to carry a gun, but that made no difference to him. He could have not shot anyone if he could. He would not have shot anyone if he could. He carried only his club. It was said that he loved the sound of his club cracking open a skull like a pumpkin. But this was not true. He hardly ever used his club. His real weapons were his hands. More than anything, he loved killing Jews with his hands. And not just any Jews, Jewish children. If you were an adult Jew, he would walk right past you. But he went out of his way for children. Sometimes he left the streets and wailed through alleyways and rubble, smacking his club on his thigh, hunting. When he spotted someone to go after, he kissed the club. Fortunately, he was fat and slow. If he managed to catch you or trick you, he used the club to stun you. Then he jammed it into his belt and waggled his fingers for the treat to come. He always smelled of mint, not from chewing gum or candy, from mint leaves. He chewed them like some men chew tobacco. There are always tiny flecks of mint on his lips. If you could see them, and if you could smell the mint, you knew you were too close. In fact, that was how we came to say a child was killed by Buffo. He smelled the mint. His favorite way to kill was to pull you face first into his bottomless belly and smother you. When this happened, the odor of mint hovered about the body until the wagon came to cart it away. I think Buffo hated me most of all. I was the only one who ever got close enough to smell the mint and lived to tell of it. Though he terrified me, I pestered him. I couldn't help myself. I called him Fat Man. I had no sense. If I had sense, I would have known what other children knew. The best defense against Buffo was invisibility. Never let him see you. Me? If I saw him waddling down the streets, I would sneak up behind him and yell, "Fat Man!" And he would be fuming as he turned around, for he'd recognize my voice. His personal nap. And the club would already be singing, and I would be ducking out of the way. Your ears are hairy!" I would shout, and thumb my nose at him, and scoot away into the crowd. And now here he was, looming above me, smiling and kissing his club, and that was giving me all the time I needed to get away. But I couldn't. He had my foot pinned to the ground with his boot, a scuffed, mud-caked, unjack-like boot. That is so weird. I screamed in pain. He laughed. His club clattered to the street. He wasn't going to use it. He was going to drown me in his belly. His meaty hands gripped my shoulders. I was dizzy with mint. My nose sank into his belly, and suddenly I was loose. I had yanked myself from the shoe he had pinned to the ground, and now I was running, bouncing off of people. When I was safe to stop, I sat on the curb. I had foiled Buffo again. I was alive. I took the other shoe off and threw it away. It was spring. When cold came, I would steal another pair. That night on the rug, I laughed as I told the other boys about my close call with Buffo. Yuri did not laugh. He said, "Don't." "Don't what?" I said. "Don't bait Buffo." "Why?" I said. He smacked me hard 3 times. "Don't," he repeated. The rest of the boys were silent. I turned away and whimpered myself to sleep. I never mentioned the man who could have been Himmler. 24. "Find the cow," Dr. Korzak had said. It was the only time Dr. K. "Find the cow," Dr. K. had said. It was the only time Dr. K. was ever stern with me. Whenever I bought him food for the orphans, from the other side of the wall, he received it happily and patted me on the head, and said, "My little smuggler." As I turned to go, he never failed to say, "Be careful." Then one day he added, "Find the cow." And then from then on, every time I saw him, find the cow. The cow had become something to believe in or not to believe in, like angels, mothers, oranges. How could something as large as a cow live in the ghetto and not be seen? How could it survive? What would it eat? Rubble dust? And yet so great was the cry for milk for children that the cow seemed to materialize from the very hunger of people, until one could almost see the animal loping down the street. Of course, no one really did see it, and the more we did not see it, the more we believed in it. Almost every day someone claimed to have heard a mysterious moo. Of course, the day soon came when Janina said she'd heard it. "No, you didn't," I said, just to be contrary. Janina was always making things up. "I did," she said. "We were playing pick-up sticks." She swept the sticks away. "You're being a baby," I said. "You're being a poop," she said. Uncle Shupsel looked up from the book he was reading and growled at Janina. "There's no cow." Reading the new book he had found was all Uncle Shupsel did these days. When he reached against the end of the book, he went back to the first page and started again. He muttered under his breath as he read. It was a book about the Lutherans. He was teaching himself to be one. He would no longer be a Jew, and they would let him get out of the ghetto. Mr. Milgram told him, "You cannot stop being a Jew." Uncle Shepsel said, I've already stopped. I'm a Lutheran. When Uncle Shepsel growled at Janina that there was no cow, I switched to her side. Yes, there is, I said. I heard it too. From then on, I had been uncertain. From that moment on, I believed in the cow. I had done this before. It seemed I believed whatever I heard myself say. A few days later, when Dr. K first said, find the cow, my belief was confirmed. I could not find the cow. I looked all over. Courtyards, backyards, cellars, rubble, no cow, no moo. I can't find the cow, I complained to the boys one day. That's because there is no cow, stupid, said Enos. Big Henrik bellowed, no cow! Kuba climbed up Big Henrik and sat on one of his shoulders. I'll bet Big Henrik is lying, he said. Kuba leaned down so that his face was upside down in front of Big Henrik's. Big Henrik, do you believe there's a cow? Big Henrik swayed under the weight of Kuba. Yes, he said. We all laughed because we knew that his answer proved nothing. Big Henrik was not only the biggest boy, but also the most agreeable. He said yes to everything. This was our signal to play the Big Henrik game. Big Henrik, do you believe that you're the world's biggest, dumbest person in the whole wide world? Yes. Big Henrik, do you believe you're a little itty-bitty baby? Yes. Big Henrik, are we going to sleep in a castle tonight in big soft beds and all the chocolates we want and the jackboots will be our servants? Yes. Ask me if we believe in Buffo, said Enos, or Himmler. Big Henrik, do you believe in Himmler? I butted in. I don't, I said. There is no Himmler. I told them about how the last parade of magnificent cars and how I called Himmler's name. The only one who turned to me was a chicken-looking man in the front seat, turning one eye to stare at me behind eyeglasses. That was Himmler, said Yuri. He can't be, I said. He looks like my Uncle Shepsel. It's him, said Yuri. So, Himmler, number 2 boss jackboot, master of all Jews, not to mention gypsies, was a one-eyed chicken. At that moment, I began losing respect for jackboots. I no longer wanted to be one. And that is the end of chapter 24. Now, I do realize this was kind of a short video, but chapter 25 is long. So, that's that. Okay, so, I got nothing to say. Make sure you leave a big thumbs up, comment down below, and don't forget, hit a subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video.